last night in Nevada, it went down. It was like Fight Club, like ding, 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 ding. Put me in, coach, because I'm ready to fight to the death. Fight Club. Hi, come on in. I am Ashley, and I am your go-to person for talking about the debates, Democratic candidates in the race to the presidential election for millennials and Gen Zs. And I make it more understandable and personable. Okay, let's get right on into it, because last night's debate was something else. In this debate, we had Bernie, healthcare for all, Sanders, Elizabeth, fight to the death Warren, Joe, I'm just waking up Biden, Amy, post-it note Klobuchar. Next we have Pete, we need to elect a Democrat, Buttigieg. And last but not least, Mike, I was not prepped for this debate, Bloomberg. They started off the night asking which candidate essentially would be the best candidate to beat Trump. Bernie Sanders attributed him to having, like I said, high voter turnout, high turnout among young people, and high turnout among minorities. That's how you get people to vote, is to have so many people voting more now than ever. I think Amy Klobuchar also said the same thing, but she attributed that apparently she did the same thing in one of her little elections. But that was her reason too. Mike Bloomberg essentially is like, I'm qualified, I have money, I am a billionaire, I am a businessman. Essentially, he's like, I am the Democratic Trump, even though he was a Republican yesterday. But what they did get straight into was the health care debate. Like always, we're still always debating the same thing. Should healthcare be treated as a human right where everyone has it, or should it be healthcare all for those who want it? I'm going to make a video later on explaining the difference between these two big healthcare decisions and more into like what Bernie Sanders' plan looks like versus what Mayor Pete's looked like. Essentially, Bernie Sanders is saying that he wants healthcare for all, so the pharmaceutical companies won't make $100 billion a year anymore, making the prices be so expensive. And why? He brought up the big question of, why are we the only developed country in the world that does not have an established healthcare for all system? It makes no sense. We pride ourselves on being the best of everything, having the most money, having the most debt, we're definitely not the smartest, but essentially being number one in a lot of things. But yet we always debate this human right of, should you be able to survive? That's Bernie Sanders' big point. Mayor Pete is saying, essentially, you are too polarizing. He's saying that if most Americans don't agree with you, then something is wrong with them, and that you're basically like a socialist who doesn't like democratic policy. So I don't really understand why you up here, because we need a Democrat. And that was a side note at Mike Bloomberg too, because we also don't know why you're here. We don't know. But that was his stab at him too. And then it ding, 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 ding. Honestly, this felt like a reality TV show, and this was the season reunion, and everyone was sitting in a circle saying why we don't like each other. But I ain't gonna say I was mad at it though. Can't say that. And Mayor Pete had this very early moment early on in the debate where he really tried to make him seem like the all-star Democrat, and his Democratic way was the right way, and it was very cringy, and I was like, please stop. But every time he talks, I'm like, please stop. In return, Bernie then comes back and talks about how pharmaceutical companies are the reason why healthcare is so expensive, and he is not wrong. There's no reason why you can go to place A and get your prescription for $75 and then go to place B and get it for $275 when it's the exact same thing, but two different pharmaceutical companies. Make it make sense, please. And then he goes to say that, of course, you're for Medicare for all of those who want it because you have billionaires who are pharmaceutical companies backing your campaign. That would make sense. And then Mayor Pete was like, but when I released my records, the pharmaceutical companies still got mad. Yeah, because they would still be responsible for paying for some of it. Not all of it, like he said, but they don't want to pay anything. They want to purely make money. And you're just saying like, you can make 20% less money, but you can still keep the 80%. So of course they got a little bit upset. Let's not play this stupid game. Y'all, but what took me out was when Elizabeth Warren was like, I looked at Mayor Pete's plan. His plan is also flawed, and he's still going to make Americans pay a lot of money for their health care. He's really not taking away the price of it at all. I think it was only one section of it was covered. I'll insert the clip right here because she can explain it better than I can. And then when it came to Amy, she was like, girl, your healthcare is 2 paragraphs. Be quiet. I was like, oh. And she told both of y'all to be quiet. Silence. Child, Elizabeth fight to the death. Warren was not playing any games with anyone on that stage. I think the first half of the debate, the only person she didn't really come after was Sanders and Biden. But Biden was asleep and he wasn't really talking. And Sanders, their ideology is close enough that there was no like polarizing. There was no need to come after him in that moment. But who she did come after right away was Mike Bloomberg. It's like, what are you doing here? I'm telling you, she came out the gate. She talked about his racism. She talked about his sexism. She talked about his taxes. Okay, let's go down the list. His racism. Of course, if you have not heard by now, he was mayor of New York and was really big on the stop and frisk policy. He was essentially like, we need to get gun violence down by any means necessary. And if you got to throw kids up against the wall and then stoke white fear in them, then so be it. 2, his company was known for women being harassed, him making sexual jokes about women, calling them derogatory terms, and him just being like, well, if women got offended by my jokes and I didn't really mean it like that. And then people in his company signing non-disclosure agreements because of some cases were taken to court, and then it ended up coming to the agreement that I think there was like no charges and non-disclosure agreements were signed. But it just goes to show that women are being harassed by both you and your company, and this is what you stand for. I don't know if this is sounding familiar, but it's starting to ring a bell. And then lastly, his taxes. He was like, my taxes won't be out for a couple of weeks, and that's that on that. Who was it starting to sound like? Exactly. Just like Donald Trump. They are no different. They are no different. But let me tell you how ill prepared he was. I don't know who didn't prep him, but whoever his team is needs to be fired. Fired. Gone. But that's because he's so busy hiding behind ads and putting a bunch of ads up and hiring meme pages that there was no need to actually be able to speak your beliefs in a way. But what was disgusting was that he essentially, when it came to his stop and frisk policies, he essentially said, well, it got the crime down, didn't it? And I apologized after, so I did what I did. It's better to act first than ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. And that's what he did. He acted first and then asked for forgiveness like that meant anything. And Elizabeth was not here for it at all. Apparently, when people in his company signed non-disclosure agreements, he can go in and ask for it to be revoked, so then those women can come out and share their stories, because once a non-disclosure agreement is signed, you can no longer talk about it. And I think you can no longer go to court about it. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments below, but that's what I think it is. But essentially Elizabeth was like, well, you can overturn that, but are you? And he was like, huh? And then Joe Biden's like, yeah, you can overturn it. You gonna do it or not? And he was like, no, I didn't plan on it. I don't remember at what point it was, but I do remember the shady cameraman, panned out for all of them. And it was at one point Mike Bloomberg was talking and everybody was laughing. I think it was about his taxes, because I think that's the only subject light enough that you can laugh about. Honestly, you have to give it up to Elizabeth Warren. She was like, I am not going down without a fight. I will not let the Democratic Party be known for the foolishness that is happening. And she said, even if I'm going down as a cutthroat queen. And I stand. I love to see it. I do. Someone said on Twitter, it finally seems like they stopped having a politically correct conversation and things start getting real. People started coming for the policies that they don't believe in. But I agree to some extent. There were some points I was like, finally we having real conversations. And then there were some points where I was like, okay, we are going too far. People were talking over people. People was just like, I'm not going to wait for the moderators to type me in. Moderators was like, I'm going to talk over you. Moderators was coming for people's throats. There was one question addressed to Amy Klobuchar about her doing an interview and not knowing the name of Mexico's president. Let me tell you, that moderator and Pete was like, are you dumb? And she was trying to make it seem like it was a slip up that I could not remember his name, but that doesn't mean I don't know the policies about what's happening. And then everyone else was like, how you gonna be president? You base your campaign off the fact that you know your politics and everything like that. It's just like, how do you know your politics? And then you forget his name. And I got it, but it felt like bullying in a sense, because hear me out. Those men, especially the last debate, have gotten up there and acted a fool, a whole fool, a fool and a half. The fact that Mike Bloomberg is up there on stage is a double fool and a half. But no one seems to like really come at their throat the way they did tonight. And I feel like the moderator really took this issue really, really personal. And so she was like cutting Amy off. That's not what I asked. I asked you a yes or no question. And then it got to the point where Elizabeth Warren came in and was like, okay, this is enough is enough. I get that she didn't know the president of Mexico's name, but y'all gotta chill. She essentially defended Amy better than Amy did herself. And then Amy was like, no, you address this to me. Let me explain myself to you. And it was a really, really, really tense moment. That moderator had her foot on Amy's throat, child. She was not here to play. Another thing I have to quickly mention is that they briefly touched about Bernie Sanders not really releasing all of his medical bills. I will say that this is a very touchy subject, because this started with President Obama, and it came from them trying to fully see if this man was really black and if he was really fit to be president. And it was really rooted in racist ideology. And then President Trump saying, as long as you get signed off by a doctor, then it's good. And then Mayor Pete coming in saying that I would be fine with signing off on a bill of health from my doctor. And it's just like, of course, you're a 30-year-old and you were a veteran. We know you're in tip-top shape. And this was not an issue on Full Disclosure. I feel like this was the issue on that stemmed from races, that stemmed from Trump, and then it stemmed into ageism. And I was just like, if we're going to talk about issues of full disclosure, there's a better way to go about it. And I did not like that whatsoever. And I know I talked about it earlier, but another conversation that I do not support is when we're talking about full disclosure and we're talking about the racist ideology that some of these candidates have supported in the past. And Mike Bloomberg was the one that pointed out that everyone up there has said something that was either racist, has done something that has not been in the betterment of minorities. And I agree with that. And we have to really closely look at some of the things people have done. We know Mike Bloomberg and Stop and Frisk. Joe Biden wrote a crime bill. Mayor Pete kicked out a lot of black people in their homes. Amy Klobuchar not prosecuting the police, but choosing to prosecute a black teenager. And it's just like all of these things, if we're going to talk about full disclosure and we're going to talk about how we need to pay attention to minorities, let's really look at what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're behaving, because it goes to show you do not. Stop saying you have the black support. We are not your black friend. We're not the friend that you can be like, I can say something harmful, but I'm not racist because I have a black friend. We are not your hot commodity. Period. That got real serious real quick. Watching this, I was just like, wow. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Like, they did not come to play. They came to attack. And I will also be talking about the healthcare issues, where every candidate stands, and any other issues that you would like to know about. So please leave any issue that from the candidates that you would like for me to cover down in the comment section below, and I will review it for you. Like always, don't forget to share this with your sister, your brother, your friend, your neighbor, your lover, so we're all aware and we can have that massive young people voter turnout. Y'all, because it's a shit show. That's what it is. That's what it is. All right, y'all.